welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. I'm Salva, and today I will be doing a book review on one of my favorite books in recent history, and that is Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass. This is actually my second time reading the book. In preparation for the fourth book coming out, I decided to reread the first three books, and I regret nothing. So for those of you still living under a rock and have no idea what Throne of Glass is about, it's a high fantasy book. The blurbs on the back say if you're a fan of The Hunger Games and Game of Thrones and Tamora Pierce, you will love this series, and I am here to attest that that is true. I am a fan of all three, and I do love this series. It's a story about an assassin named Celaena Sardathian. We start off in the book. She is working in a slave camp, and she is pulled out by the crown prince of the country, Crown Prince of Adarlan, and the captain of the garden, saying she can earn her freedom if she joins this competition to become the king's champion. I just don't have a problem with this book at all. This is gonna be one of those gushy videos where I just talk about how much I love this book. But let's talk about my one and only problem in this book. Do not blurb that it is about the Hunger Games if it's not. The competition part of this book was just probably like 20% of the real plot. There were some chapters actually when they just say that the second trial was 2 weeks ago. Okay, so we don't get to see that? Alright. So don't blurb that it's gonna be like the Hunger Games when it's really not. That's like the equivalent of having a clickbait article on Facebook. So don't do that. Throughout the competition, while she's competing to regain her freedom and not be sent back into the slave camps, she also runs into a magical element, and that is a dead queen appears to her as a ghost and saying there's an evil in this castle and you must destroy it. You know, your typical hero quest thing. Someone is also killing off some of the competitors to become the king's champion, so she's got to deal with big evil and then murderer killing all these people, and at the same time she has to compete for her freedom. Then we get to meet some of my favorite characters. Alongside Celaena, you've got Crown Prince Dorian, fine-ass prince, he's beautiful. The captain of the guard, Chaol Westfall. Thumbs up if you're Team Chaol. Woo woo! And Princess Nehemia Itger from Elway. I looked at a pronunciation guide before doing this video, and I hope I didn't just muck it all up, but I think those are how those names are pronounced. One of my favorite things about Sarah J. Maas's writing is that even though it's a YA book and there are teenage characters, she never treats them like they're kids. Like, there are some authors out there who write from the point of view of a teenager, and sure, they evoke the right feelings, they know what's going on through a teenager's mind, but there's a certain sense of, not condescension, but it's more of a, I'm fully aware that 16 is still a kid, and I'm gonna write my characters like they're still a kid. Sarah J. Maas doesn't do that. She treats her characters like they're adults, even though they are barely adults, but it makes you take the books more seriously and the characters and what they're going through. So like when her characters fall in love, it's not just a teenage crush puppy love, it is love. When they go through problems, it's not them being brooding, angsty little turds, it's them having adult problems and going through things in an adult manner. I think it's important, especially for older fans of YA who aren't exactly teenagers anymore. Raise your hand if you're not a teenager who loves YA. It makes us feel validated in a sense, although you don't need any validation to read YA. I just want to throw that out there, but you know, it makes you feel better about, like, okay, fine, they're 17, but they're acting like grown-ups, so I'm good with that. Speaking of characters, aside from the amazing characters I already mentioned, the only problem I had in character form is Cain. Cain is like the big bad of this book, and he's just such a big, fat cliche. You could tell right from the off that he was gonna be the bad guy, and yet the story went on as if we didn't know who the bad guy was, when it was so clearly Cain. Let's talk about the dialogue. Bracelet just flew off my arm. One of my favorite parts in the book, aside from the wonderful characters, is also the dialogue. You know, there's some people who just fail at writing conversations in books. Like, you just cringe. And it's like, dang it, you made such a good plot, but your character one-liners are lame. Sarah J. Maas's books and characters always have the best dialogues. Is dialogue's a word? They have the best speech speechifying skills. I could read like a whole page of just dialogue. I wouldn't complain. Like, don't give me descriptions, although her descriptions are really good, but don't give me descriptions or settings or exposition. Just give me Selena and Dorian talking and flirting and insulting each other at the same time, and I would read that. Reading this book for the second time, I also was more aware of the little foreshadowing bits that the author put in the book. There was one line, I'm just gonna check my little cheat sheet here. She was talking about what she tried so hard to forget, and you think it has to do with Selena's backstory and her parents being murdered and being thrown into being an assassin. Reading Throne of Glass after reading Heir of Fire, like, oh, I see what you did there. Those are like little foreshadowing bits that, yeah, like, I know what you're talking about. I don't want to mention what she's talking about right now in this review. I will save that for my Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire review. I don't want to super spoil it for people who are just reading the books right now, but you will see what I'm talking about once you get to book 2 and book 3. The ending was so violent and visceral and realistic, and just, oh, you could feel every blow that Selena received in that final duel. Chaol saying, "Get up, get up." Also has 2 of my favorite lines ever in literature, and they are so beautiful. Actually, one of them was featured on a BuzzFeed list of favorite lines of YA literature. The first one is, "You could rattle the stars," hashtag rattle the stars, and that's such a beautiful, like, picture, rattling the stars. You could do anything if you wanted to. And the second quote that I love is, "You could help build a world where true love isn't required to have a happy ending." That's beautiful. Honestly, for those who don't like YA, for those who feel kind of like iffy about it, if there's one book you have to read from YA, this should be the series. This will change your mind. This is like great for fans of Game of Thrones and Tamora Pierce. I finished her Tortall books about 3 years ago already, and she still hasn't released her new one about Numair, and we've been waiting for 4 years, Tamora Pierce. Like, please get on that. There's been this big, epic fantasy-shaped hole in my heart. It's been filled by some books, you know. L&O did amazing Eastern mythology, and Leigh Bardugo did Russia Inside, but there's been a big English fantasy hole in my heart. When I read this for the first time, I was like, yo, this is it. This is it. And ever since, I've called Sarah J. Maas Baby Tamora Pierce, and I stand by that. She is amazing at high fantasy. She has fully fleshed out her world. 10 points to Sarah J. Maas for amazing world building. I don't know why I said that with so many periods, but world building, amazing. You know, she just took the time to build the culture of each country, of each continent, even of each city. It's just so amazing. 10 out of 10 would recommend this book. For fantasy fans, for YA fans, for fans of a good story, just go ahead and read this, and then you can get back to me about your thoughts. I don't know anyone who's read this and said I didn't like it. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there, because you're entitled to your own opinions, but personally, I don't know anyone who's ever read this book and was like, no, I'm not a fan. No, everyone is converted after reading Throne of Glass. And that is it for my Throne of Glass review. I hope you guys like it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Cuckoo for Books, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!